Chaps, got Max who's come to join us. Max, you wanted to talk about ADHD. That was via Dan, who, from the makes me laugh. The Ipswich Bogwell Society, isn't he? He runs that group. He's a really nice guy, and he name dropped you, and I was like, okay, yeah, let's have a chat with you, because you just wanted to talk about ADHD, didn't you? So what have you got to say, mate?
Well,
I've always a rude way of saying that. Sorry, mate.
Cool. So yeah, basically for me, I got diagnosed at the age of 28, and I sort of always knew that there was something different. Couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I just knew that I learned different to the other kids. Certain things affected me a lot more emotionally, but then also I had the upsides of like hyper focus, where if I was interested in something, I'd just get immersed in it, and I'd just get lost. And so music's that kind of thing for me, music and football. But the main thing for me is that because I got a late diagnosis, I hate to think of anyone suffering the way I did, like in school and things like that. And you know, with things like ADHD, they do come with a lot of struggles. And I think now I'm starting to get to grips with some of them struggles. I'd really like to see if I can help other people come to terms with what their diagnosis is, and sort of how they can move forward. Because I think you have to look at ADHD as something that's just a different ability. It's not a disability. So that's my sort of message that I want to get across, really.
To be honest, kids, my bread and butter is I do marketing for a living. That's what I do. I'm not going to go to a sales pitch. That's not what we're here for. But I deal with developers and all that kind of stuff. Arguably the geeky people, but bloody clever, and they are so focused on stuff. But where I'm going with that is actually a lot of them. I don't want to say most of them, because some of them are my friends, but a lot of them are so focused, and a lot of them have got ADHD, and actually they've learned to use it as a gift.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think for so long I felt like, when I found out, it was really weird. I was relieved, but I also felt like a bit cheated. And it's taken me a long time to sort of get over that. But now I finally feel like, actually, this is why I was different in doing things like this and like that, and this is probably why I focus so heavily on music, and I have that gift, I feel. And as you say, a lot of people who can be on I suppose on the spectrum, or ADHD, autism, things like that, they're extremely clever, and things like this should be celebrated. And I think when the world out there can sometimes look at these things as a disability, it almost feels like a bit of an insult. You know, I feel that these kids need to be nurtured and shown that they're special.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. And the people I've spoken to as well have got ADHD and whatever. It's about, I think it's learning that ability to go, actually, do you know what, Max, I can see you're really good at this, and really help you excel with that. I'm not saying that you need like special need help. I don't mean that how that sounds, but it's actually go, do you know what, you're really, really good at this. And it's for me to actually, up to a point, go, actually, if you're working, I use a business terminology, is if you're sitting over there, I'm like, Max, you're really good at this, so I'm going to give you that. If there's things what you're quite clearly struggling with, everyone's crap at something. Not everyone can be perfect. Well, don't let you do it. Focus on the things which is really, really good. I think I don't know where I was going with that one really, but I think that's the thing with personally what I find with ADHD is let them excel on the things that they're good at. So I don't want to speak to you like a third party. Do you go what I mean? So
yeah. As I say, I mean, the first real challenge that I had in life, and sort of feeling almost like I didn't fit in, was in school. And you know, I'd be staring out the window at something for 20 minutes and not even realise. And then when I zoned back in, people were all like, they're writing and they're doing all their work, and I was just lost. But if it was something that I was interested in, I'd excel so much at it. And I think school, it's always had like a certain curriculum, like everyone's got to learn the same way. And this is the first kind of place where kids can feel really isolated and almost lonely. I remember I had friends, but I felt lonely because I couldn't comprehend what was going on in the class. I couldn't absorb that information like everyone else. I felt a bit stupid, I suppose.
Yeah. So what made you go, right, something's wrong with me? What made you go ask for help, or that diagnosis? What triggered that?
So for years I've dealt with mental health issues. Always tried to fight them with, different medications. I was on sertraline, so like, obviously most people know sertraline as an antidepressant. So I was on that for a while, and it was taking the edge off, but it wasn't doing enough.
Yeah.
And I don't know really. I mean, after numerous failed relationships, lack of commitment to certain things, and just constantly changing my mind all the time, lack of sleep, anxiety, depression, loads of different things. And I started to research it to find out sort of what was going on, because any time I tried to get an appointment with my doctors, I mean, most people know trying to get an appointment with a doctor's surgery is nigh on impossible. You ring up at 8 o'clock, and by 8:01 all the appointments are gone. Yeah. So I felt like I couldn't get anyone to actually listen to me and what's going on. And sometimes with something like ADHD, like expressing your emotions and how you actually feel can be hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started to research that, and then I met a lady who ended up becoming like my girlfriend for a while, and she actually had ADHD, and she pointed out a lot of things a lot of traits that I had, and she ended up paying for me to go and see someone privately, because I'd waited on the NHS for like a year, and oh my God, it was getting to the point where I was tearing my hair out, because it was affecting my life so much, my work life, my sleep, any relationship, my commitment to things. I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. I felt so awful. But once I got like this sort of diagnosis, things started to unravel, and I started to understand a little bit more. And then I wasn't so hard on myself. I thought, I'm not stupid. I just have intelligence in different areas. And I do remember that kind of almost relief that I felt to finally know what was sort of going on,
Yeah. Well, I've always said, because obviously we're in that weird bit of the world at the moment, aren't we? Weird era where no one wants a label, but everyone keeps creating labels for themselves. But I do think even with myself, mental health and labels are actually a really good thing to have, because once you go, right, yeah, I've got ADHD, or I've got depression, or I've got borderline personality disorder, you can work on that.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the main thing. Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
I think that's the main thing, like what you say, that the trouble is some people will live by labels and use that to get out of doing things. And I know for me personally, I mean, I've obviously got ADHD. I don't know what it's like to have autism or anything like that, and I would never ever try and say that I know what that's like. So that aside, I'm talking about me from my own personal standpoint. Even though I have that diagnosis, I do not want to let it define me. I do not want to let it stop me from doing things. And yeah, I want to go out there, and yeah, if I succeed, I'll be a person who succeeds that has ADHD. But most of all, I'll just be a person that's succeeded and got over mental health struggles and uphill struggles like a lot of other people have. I'm not I'd never have myself down as special for having this. I just think obviously some of my struggles may be different, but we all go through struggles, and we've all got to pick ourselves up at some point and go, right, I'm not going to let this define me. I'm going to fight back. And that's when I surrounded myself with loads of good people and cut out negativity. And I find things like this, like talking, is the best thing for me, to try and use my voice to do some good. And I just want to help people. I don't want anyone to feel like I did in school and in certain situations. So
what negativity did you cut out?
Certain people in my life. Took a lot of people off of social media, because I find nowadays, especially, things like social media can create a complex. It can really make us, because we're looking at other people's lives and we're thinking, oh, that person's got this, when actually they might not even be happy. It's just the illusion on social media, and you can get lost in a world that isn't real, and you're not living in your own sort of life. I went my own way with music. I was no longer in an abusive relationship that I was in, so I did a lot of things to cut out negativity, and I thought, like, what's best for me? For once, what's best for me? Because I've spent my whole life not knowing how to deal with my own emotions, so I've just helped other people rather than help myself. And only within the last year or so, I've started to realize that actually I need to start helping myself and stop running away from that. So what can I do to do that? I can talk about it.
Good on you. Absolutely well done to you, mate. So have you been through therapy or anything like that, or have you just got a good bubble around you? Or
yeah, I've been through numerous therapies. At the moment, Dan, who you mentioned, he also does the Autism and ADHD page on Facebook, and him and his friend Annie Clements run that, and they're doing a lot of good. And Dan's been mentoring me, and he's been teaching me how to get myself into a decent routine, how to understand my ADHD better, because I find it fascinating, actually, that, you know, there's a certain part of the brain that doesn't work as well as other people's, but there's, you know, normally you'll find with people with ADHD and things like that, they've always got a creative side. They're very sort of, I don't know, different in a way, unique. And that's what I wanted to find out, the fundamentals of how to manage it. But I also wanted to accept who I am and nurture these gifts that I have and take that further, you know.
Good on you, mate. Absolutely good on you. And so if somebody's, because obviously we're coming to a close already, bloody hell, that's flew by. But if somebody's watching this, and I think people who as a charity, I can't recommend, and I will never ever recommend for people to self-diagnose, absolutely, but you can ask yourself questions. What would you say to somebody who's listening to this going and they're like, bloody hell, that's me? What would you say for them to do if this video has triggered something? They're like, oh shit, what would you tell them to do if that was you?
Well, what I would say, because I started to almost like log things, how certain things affected me. You'll find with things like ADHD, caffeine can really affect you. Having a really bad diet can really affect you. Your ability to concentrate. Like, what's really hard for me is if someone's talking to me and then they're not interesting, and I find it, because I'm really polite, I'd have myself down as a polite person, but sometimes you find yourself zoning out from things. And what I would say is, I'd say, don't, like you say, don't self-diagnose, but research it, and research it with an open mind, but also ask your friends, ask the people around you who know you the best.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's online tests that you can do. You know, there's things like that. But what I would say is, and this is no slate on the NHS or anything, but if you go through the NHS, you'll be waiting a long time. If you have the money and you believe that you have something like ADHD, like autism, anything like that, pay to go private, because it's quick, it's simple, and then you can start getting the help that you need.
I think that's a valid point, and just like you, I think I'm alive because of the NHS. I've had some nasty accidents and stuff. I am alive for them, and I up to a point owe them my life. But there are certain pockets of the NHS that they're just overwhelmed. I'm not going to slag them off, but we have to sometimes help them out as well, isn't it, really? And it's just, do you know what? If the NHS is saying, right, you've got a 18-month waiting list, and I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe Suffolk doesn't actually have a ADHD service at the moment, or a specialist who can do all that. So I think they're looking for somebody to run all of that. So you can either sit around moaning. I'm going to be quite harsh now. I don't mean this to be a dick, but you can either sit around moaning about it for the next 18 months, or you can find a charity, Suffolk Mind. There are a few of them out there, isn't there, where they have actually got specialists. And do you know what? Sometimes don't be a bit humble and ask a mate to borrow 50 quid. If it really does come down to that, just to speed that up. Did I just sound like a complete dick then, or
I think when it comes to mental health, obviously there's a lot of people out there that are being failed, but there's also a lot of people that, and again, this is going to sound harsh, but you have to pick yourself up, because people around you can help you till the cows come home, but you have to want to help yourself. You have to want to get up, and that's the same thing with me. I had mornings where I woke up and I didn't even care about myself, about anything. I was numb. I was just on autopilot. And then one day I just got so fed up and emotional, and I thought, I don't want to feel like this anymore. And you have to realize any bad habits that you have, bad sleeping habits, bad eating habits. You have to exercise. And I always say, surround yourself with good people. That's the biggest thing for me. I have the most beautiful friends in the world that will do anything for me. Some people don't have that. I appreciate that. But you know, it is about joining online communities on Facebook, which I've done. And I've joined ADHD groups. I've joined some anger management groups, because I've suffered, you know, with anger issues because of unresolved issues in the past. You have to do, even if it's a little step, a baby step each day, you have to do something to progress, because you can come back from these things. You just have to be proactive. You have to get out there and want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And it's always our first time, isn't it?
It is
always our first time. Once you've done it the first time, actually things get a lot easier. But anyway, mate, we've already hit that 20 minutes. That was a good conversation. I appreciate that, mate.
I really appreciate you having me on, mate. Thank you.
That's all good. What I'll do is I'll probably get this. Actually, let me hit the stop recording. People don't need to hear this. But 1 second, mate.